Joe Rogan Show, episode 2328, May 15th, Dr. Zahi Hawass. I'm Laura Ranieri Roy, and I wanted to discuss this from both an Egyptology perspective and someone who loves Joe Rogan. I listened to his podcast, and we were very excited, my husband and I, on a long drive to listen to the whole thing on this weekend. It was really hard to listen to. These two men do not get along very well. And I think who is the winner and loser? I would say that the audience, in a sense, was the loser because the tension by the time you reach over an hour, 15, 45, it was hard. They think differently, they don't get along. But here's the scoop from someone who both knows the archaeology and also appreciates what Rogan does. Rogan is super smart guy. I think he's a brilliant interviewer. I like his podcast very much. I like him. Very common sense. He's shrewd, even though he doesn't have a big, huge academic background. I've listened to him and how sharp he is with questioning. He really gets it. However, I listened to his interview with Graham Hancock, who he adores. I mean, we all do. He has his biases. He loves the conspiracy theories, the ideas, shall I say, alternative theories. Now, Hawass, I've met him a couple of times. Of course, he's a giant in Egyptology, and a lot of people, yes, really uh, have problems with him because he is not a humble man. He is very proud of his accomplishments. He is very arrogant. And it does rub people the wrong way. The first half, I can't believe the number of times he said, I did this, my book, my work. And it bothered me as an Egyptologist, yes, that he did not say myself and Dr. Mark Leaner, working at the pyramids for 57 years, Dr. Pierre Taille, who did the important work at the Sorbonne on Merer's papyrus. Where was his mention of, not talking about necessarily the archaeology teams, but all the other great experts? Yes, but there's no discounting the fact that Hawass, as much as you may not like his egotism, he has done phenomenal things in Egyptology. I just wish he was confident. He didn't brag about it all the time. It drives people crazy and it makes people like Rogan and like myself, as a modest Canadian, we Canadians don't like a lot of braggart behavior, but it puts people off. So I think this is what happened. But it's worth listening to this podcast. I'll tell you why. If you can get beyond all the arguing, and I'll tell you what I perceived was happening, Hawass sets out the story of how the pyramids were built and a lot of the other stories of the evolution of pyramid building. Towards the end, Rogan asked the question, so how did it all start? And in very simple, easy to follow terms, Hawass outlines this wonderful Egyptology 101. I thought this is really nice and simply put. If you follow he says, you get in a tremendous education. And some of the details he just slipped in, even for myself who've been studying this for over a decade, I thought, oh, that's an interesting nuance. So it's worth listening. If you can get past the I and me and mine, it's worth listening to what Hawass had to say. Also, as much as I like Mr. Rogan, I didn't appreciate as an interviewer the fact he didn't appear to have read Hawass's book. Yes, Hawass mentioned it far too many times, but did Rogan read the book? Why was there a problem with understanding diorite and flint tools were used to build the pyramids? Hawass is in his 70s. He's not coming complete with his digital files and his AI to share things. He's in the field. He's an archaeologist. He's not expected to have all this digital evidence, digital backup with him. So I think cut him some creds, read his book before you have him on as a guest. He has important things to say. Only Hawass and a few other very great world authorities, including the great Mark Leaner, know as much about the pyramids as he does. You've got to listen to him. You've got to give him credibility. You've got to listen to what he says as much as you might like Graham Hancock and have your own ideas. You've got to remain open-minded and just even if you don't like his personality. The other thing that got in the way, I think, is language. And Hawass, I don't know why he isn't better at English. He's presenting all over. But I think there's some sections that were lost in translation, not understanding the interviewer's question. At the end, Rogan is getting into this Zep Tepi. Now, Zep Tepi is a theory. It's an alternative theory on these millennia of years of kings that go back. But Hawass is not expected as a scientist and archaeologist to know all the alternative theories. So he was not wrong in that. Also, Rogan's insistence on those Italian tomographers and this stuff under Khafre's pyramid. Uh, it's really not been peer-reviewed work. These guys are researchers. They've never been to Egypt. And I think Hawass said quite legitimately, he referred to his team of experts, the Scan Pyramids team, the Japanese experts, the scientists, experts that he works with, and they said it's not peer-reviewed. His English wasn't good in explaining this, but Hawass cannot dissect why that work did not seem credible, but it was enough for him to say that, I think. I think he answered some of the questions in broken English okay. But Rogan was like a dog with a bone. He obviously got rubbed the wrong way by the egotism at the beginning and stopped really listening to his guest and the credible things he was saying. He seemed to want to be tripping him up. And then at the end, they're starting to talk about Göbekli Tepe and alien existence. And Hawass wasn't saying he doesn't believe in aliens or that he didn't ever hear of Göbekli Tepe. He was cut off a lot, but I distinctly got the sense that this isn't my field of research. He's heard of I think he's heard of Göbekli Tepe. There's no question, but he's not an expert in that. And this discussion wasn't about are there aliens? I mean, he's not the person to ask, do you believe in that? But there's so many more interesting things to ask Dr. Hawass than that. So, yes, too many I, me's, and mine's. I wish he would just rest on his many laurels. He's a great man. Stop defending yourself. You're right. Rogan said that. You don't have to argue with everyone. He is great. He would do himself a favor if he gave more people creds who deserve it. But Rogan, you got to read the books of your guests, and you can't I love you, but you can't be that biased. Even though you love Graham Hancock and all these other ideas, listen to an archaeologist who's worked in the field for more than 50 years and be polite. If you don't agree with him, listen to what he has to say and don't ask him about areas that are not his expertise. So that is my diagnosis. Listen to the podcast. If you can get through the aggravated lack of chemistry dialogue, you'll learn a lot about Egyptian history. Laura Ranieri Roy.